Right folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Scotland. And today we've come to Glen Moy, which is a little Scottish glen, and look at it at this time of year, it looks wild and desolate. And a cool little thing we've come to see today is a little abandoned house. We were at this like back in the summer, but for a kind of like autumn wintry walk, I just thought it would be cool to come up here and just head over the hill up this little track. We've had some heavy rain recently, like last weekend it was nearly impossible to explore. All the roads were flooded out, and we can see evidence here, even with this little burn, it's been right up into the grass here, and even where the wee Honda's parked down there, again, that's all been underwater last weekend, so that is crazy to see. But today's adventure, abandoned house, folks. It's often cool, even if I've been somewhere before, like when you go back you often discover little nuggets of history that you totally missed the first time. Sometimes, like different times of year, the landscape's just got such a different character, it's always worth an adventure. And when you see landscape like this, it's just breathtaking, folks. Scotland at its finest. So for today's adventure, I'm just hoping that there's no like gamekeepers and stuff out shooting today. Sometimes on Scottish estates this time of year they can be out shooting, but I'm quite early on the go today for this adventure, folks, because I think it's just 9:21. Check it out, 9:21 AM right there. So it's early for an adventure, but actually it's milder today as well, because we've had some real cold weather this week. It's been right down like 3 and 4 degrees, even lower at nights. So today it's like 7 degrees, so to me it's feeling milder. 7 degrees Celsius, folks, out here, and there's no actually a lot of wind at this side of the hill, which is always a good thing for making a video. Check that out, folks, for a view. That's looking down Glen Moy towards probably the Cortahay direction, and the Ailey Monument there standing on the hill. At the other side of these hills here it's Glen Clova, which borders Glen Moy. But it is an incredible scene out here. Look how many sheep are just grazing here on this wild land. And I can actually hear the grouse making its call. I don't know if that comes out on the camera. Anyway, the house is just round this hill. This path kind of goes right around the side of this hill, and it takes us right past. It's like a little button bend kind of house, which would have been a croft house, part of a little farm, wee Scottish farm at one time, probably making their living out here with a few fields on this hill. Some of these old dikes that we can see leading up through the long grass, that'll be the original dikes, probably related to the fields from that farm. The sheep are just grazing quite happy out here. That one there's quite inquisitive, he's just chilling, staring this direction. It's cool to see the wee burn just weaving its way down this wild land. It's probably that little burn there that's carved most of the lower lying bits of land here. Often with hills like this there's just water running off them constantly, as we found out in the Glen Clova video recently. It was just a wild hilltop environment. Look at this next to the road, folks. This is the wild bog grass, and wherever you see that growing, it's always super wet and probably quite a dangerous bit of the hill to walk about if you see stuff like that, but you do get patches of it. But normally that stuff only grows on the really boggy areas of the hill. I can actually hear shooting now, folks, in the distance. So there must be shooting, it sounds like on the faraway hill, maybe beyond where those trees are, way up there. So hopefully I can get down, record this house and get out of here before there's any shooting or anything on this hill here. I wouldn't have thought they would be shooting in this direction, because obviously we've got sheep right here, but This is obviously prime gamekeeping territory. They're out for all like the grouse and anything else, but all year round, they'll be managing the deer on the hill here and the stags, and there'll be a crazy like population of all kinds of stuff here. All game birds and animals. It's cool to see the dry stone dike construction. Been standing there for so many years. And sometimes when these old farms were in place, they would only have a small area like this cleared where the dike is. All the rest would be wild land. And maybe even back many years ago there would have been a lot more forest and stuff around these places. But sometimes there was old settlements like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and then little crofts like what we're about to see today they were just built onto like the top of the old house kind of thing. The original croft that was there for maybe like 500 or 600 years ago. Again, it's the same area of land that the farm was at, just built onto, and then eventually one day it's just abandoned. But it's the sort of thing, maybe one day in like 100 years to come, somebody will build another house there on top of the existing one. It's like a big cycle. Years of history often on top of each other. And sometimes on these adventures when I'm exploring, that's what you see. It's like you see stuff from all different times in history kind of mixed together in the glens. So that's what makes it so interesting. So look at this, folks, we can see the house now just at this corner in the road, and look at its setting. It's got this wild landscape just all around it. See, I visit like so many abandoned houses and little places, I always forget about the individual history often of each one. That was how I thought today when I come back here. It's cool to see it and remember what is actually going on here. Because I'm sure at Glen Moy, this is one of my favourite little houses that we visited. Often it's just a wee nugget of the Glen history, almost lost to time. At one time this was obviously a thriving little croft up here, and the people that owned this croft were probably one of the main like owners of the land around here. I think like all the farm building and stuff's down now, but it would have had like a proper mill and stuff for doing the grain. You can just imagine them out here with their sickles and scythes, cutting their wheat, stacking it up in the shed. They'd be throwing it into the mill to separate the grain from the straw. And that was the reason they had a mill in their shed back then. So it is interesting history. It's cool to remember that old way of life here in the Glen. They would have just been manually cutting any of that stuff that had wheat, barley. It was all more a manual job. But the fact that there's been a mill, that shows you they had a bit of a mechanism, like a mechanical thing to help them out with that process. And it was turned from, some farms had it turned from a water wheel. Most farms had a source of water like a water wheel. Other ones used like a mechanism that they tied a horse to or a cow, and it used to just turn round and turn a shaft which drove the farm mill. And there is evidence of that here. See, another thing, in the summer, like when I was here, everything was so like green and like overgrown. Often history is like covered up. It's cool at this time of year, everything's like easy to see. Abandoned history is sometimes easier to visit. So here we are, folks, we've made it. This is the old farm buildings and the house is just over the back of that wall. So we'll just start here at the closest wall to the road and just take a look at the history. That could have been an old lintel which at one time used to sit higher up. Sometimes with really old buildings like this, stones were taken and used when they built newer buildings in the area, like hundreds of years ago. But some of the stones they've used here is impressive. These old like dry stone walls on the property here will be the older ones. And then I think it gets newer and newer over towards like the house. But the house was probably always like modernised and renovated. That's how it doesn't look as bad as some of these other buildings. Yeah, there's some old remains of times when it was a croft. Maybe some of this is also gamekeepers that's thrown stuff in over the years. You can see this has been like sheds and stuff there, maybe for animals or maybe even equipment. And look at this must be the scrap pile. Look at that, the cool detail there, the old fire front, which at one time was in the house. Yeah, it's crazy seeing it now at this time of year when everything's not overgrown. I'll jump down, we'll head round. Wow, what a scene, imagine that, looking out your farmyard down that valley. You can see right over the Strathmore Valley at the far end of the glen. All these little dry stone dikes. So impressive to see, folks. And check out these little buildings here. I think that's been a real ancient kind of side to the farm here. It's amazing to think the years it's passed when things like this has been abandoned. At one time this was like a thriving farmyard. Every day the boy would be out here busy, kind of working the ground, working the farm, and then one day it's just abandoned. And it's just a bit of history almost forgotten forever. And look at this little clue to the history. The hinges are still here in the wall. You can imagine the old door probably rattling in the wind on the stormy Glen nights. Oh look, they've used a bit of quartz here in the wall. That's a cool detail. The walls are really well constructed, but it's not actually a square. It's like they've just built it to the shape of the land that they needed here. They've built it for the shape of the land rather than the shape of the shed. Look, here's the lintel stone just lying down. This one's still got the lintel stone in place. Yeah, it's old history right here, folks. I love seeing it. They've just built it with the small stones and the big stones and whatever stones has been lying about here in the glen. A lot of those old buildings were just built with what the people had at hand. And that's why there's even massive chunks of quartz like that in the wall. It's like almost a flint material with quartz through it. Yeah, look, there's been a door frame into this shed here. You can see the old drillings in there. Yeah, see, the last time all this was too overgrown to even see. Whoa, there's a wee rabbit. Oh my goodness, there's a wee rabbit right there, folks, within this perimeter. It's going to think it's totally cornered. If I was a fox coming in there, I would have had it for tea right there. Yeah, the interesting bit, the little bit of history, that piece of wall sticking up. It's the only surviving bit of the wall there, but it's the bit of the wall that has the history hidden within it, because that's where you can see the old remains from the mill. See all this, folks, it's like nettles which has died back. Look at the size of this massive lintel stone right here. And that's obviously been over the door. You can see that's been the loft up there. Oh my goodness, I can hear tons of gunshots. I think it's obviously a prime shooting day today, folks. Look, there's where the mill had come in. And look, it's been bolted down, wooden parts of it. So it would have been in here, milling their grain off the straw. This must have been one of their main sheds. And out here is where the mechanism would have been, where they tied like the horse to the wheel, and it would have walked round and round inside like a circle here, turning the mechanism with the drive wheel going through. And it is impressive, folks. Anyway, let's head on in to this little house and see what's left. I can't believe how it looks so different at this time of year. Everything's just like died back and it's got such a cool character. The character of the land, folks. You can just imagine them throwing the straw out there into the trailer. It's almost like that front wall's actually cracked now and starting to lean away. That's how it's cool to do videos and document often the wee nuggets of history. If they do fall down, then you can actually remember how they were at a certain time. Whoa, that's proper soaking there. My feet just about soaked right into the ground. Look at this, there's been a wee building at the side here with a fireplace. See already, this is all stuff that I've never seen before. Last time I was here I never saw any of this. Look, there's been stone stairs leading down into this bit and it's all been bricked up. This tree must have at some point come flying down here from somewhere. Yeah, wow. I love seeing stuff like this. The old windows, the decay. It's got the old shutters. Let's head straight in here, folks. I don't know if it comes out on the video, but there's gunshots coming through like the Clover side of that hill. Whoa, it looks super damp in here. Here, I'll get my torch on. We'll head right in here, folks. Wow, it's proper dark in here and wet. I did not even remember this place was like this dark and wet. I've got my torch on now so we can actually see details here. Whoa, there's a proper like hole in the floor that I just about went down it. Real adventures once again, folks. It's insane to see this. You never know what you're getting into sometimes. Kind of like, look at the roof here. Old details of the history with the hooks. This is the one where this is propping up the broken mantle here, but this fire's got the rare thing with the bar where you hang the pot and then you fold it out or in, kind of above the fire. It's little details like this that I love seeing. Similar to some of the fireplaces we saw in the hunting lodge recently. And this is an interesting piece of history as well, folks. It's actually an axle off an old like cart, a horse-drawn cart. That's what that is right there. So that's a piece of history on its own, which would have been lying around at this farm, and they've been like, oh, we'll chuck this under. Because obviously the lintels drop in there like an inch. But at one time this would have been like the crofter's house. Often on way farmhouses in Scotland, like the kitchen would just basically be the room that they spent most of the time in. They would have probably had a table, and that was what they did when they came in from the farm. They would come and get their dinner and their tea. They would just be working the whole time. It was like proper manual labour back in the day. I think this is a more recent fire that they've brought in for like the shooters and stuff. It's probably like a 1970s unit or something. Maybe not even as old. Check it out, there's like a cupboard here with nothing. It might have been like a false door almost. That's maybe the reason it's lying down here. And somebody's maybe thought, oh, there's a room here we can't get in, but oh, because that's that. I've remembered, folks, that's that little room outside where the stairs had gone down. The eerie old mirror. It's a proper cool like little house, this, like. I remember, I think the last time, it's coming back to me, folks, this door, somebody's tried to open it from this side and it's proper jammed the mechanism, because the door's actually meant to open this way. I'm just keeping it rolling, folks. The viewers are along on this adventure with me. Check this out. Oh, this is the house where the staircase is proper rotten. Yeah, I never trusted this staircase last time. Because I think it's just, you can see where people's tried to walk up it and it's literally like mush. Because there's actually a window right up there with no glass. So there's like little upstairs bedrooms and stuff, folks, but it's not actually that safe to be going up there. That's another thing when you're exploring properties even. You have to try and not damage them because, again, that's no part of the exploring obviously. You would end up totally falling through. Look at that actually. The roof's out. Oh, it's so eerie folks. See coming in here. Because look, this is like a bedroom. Underneath the stairway we can see the last remains of the yellow paint. Look at this fireplace. This whole area here is eerie like. I'm just trying to get a view of this. The way it's hanging off the wall though, you can just tell it's in its last few years of existence. That's how it's totally been worth coming back here and having a proper. Check it out folks, that is crazy. The little window there with the cobwebs on it. Looking out onto the wild hill. This is one of my favourite rooms. I think if I remember correctly, last time we were here there was a hell of a smell coming out below that floor. It's been a wee cupboard or whatever at one time. This must have been the sitting room at this end. Look, the roof's just about falling down in here. Wow, the floor is just proper creaking. I'm a bit on edge. I'll record the fire, but I'm not wanting to walk about too much. Look at it, the way the plaster's just like half off the wall. That's what you call lath and plaster there, with the wooden laths, and then the plaster was pasted onto it. And that shows the age of this house. It was probably like, I reckon it was like in 1800s the last time it was kind of done up, and it was built on top of houses. There's probably been a house on this site from maybe 300 or 400 years ago or more. It's just the last renovation looks like early like 1800s or whatever. Imagine that away out here, no electric and stuff. Again, no lights out at night. It would be pitch dark. It's often just crazy imagining like who might have lived in a house like this back then, folks. Think of the conversations and things that went on back as well. They've almost got like mahogany doors. And they still look in great condition. Look at that folks, it's got the old brass door handle. That's been cool once again though. I love just often doing that, exploring somewhere and seeing what is left of it. And like, in the summer when I was visiting this place, we visited so many like abandoned houses in quick succession, you often forget individual details. But I remember getting told back at that time, this is actually an axle from an old cart or whatever. And it would have had one of those big wooden wheels on it. Before the days of pneumatic tyres, folks. And that shows you the age of this farm. The boy would have had a horse-drawn cart. Maybe it sheared an axle. I'm not sure if it's meant to be bent like that. It's maybe literally the boy crashed his cart. Because you can see it's carved here. But then also maybe that's what they did on purpose. So once the weight was on it, it straightened up. I don't even know how it worked back in those days, folks. But it's interesting to see wee details of history like that, and then update the viewers as well. Because last time I came round here, I didn't know that's what it was. Let's head on round here, folks. Oh, I heard a noise like right above my head, and that was so scary, but it was a pigeon. Because there they are. Those two pigeons there. I was going to say, I've seen a lot of houses back in the day had windows like that above the front door. Because I've seen them on so many like old houses. So now I'm coming out this door here. It's actually raining now, folks. The adventure's always real on this channel. And like often to come out and record places like this, you just have to deal with wild weather conditions or crazy landscapes sometimes. This is another bit of history that we saw. This is a section of what was like a harrow kind of thing that they dragged along behind the horse. You can see there where it was pulled, and look, the actual bit's worn. You can tell how much work it's done. The very front of that hook there is worn from it getting dragged along. Shows you how much force was on it. And probably if you wrecked about in this area with a metal detector, you'd find these bolts. They maybe rattled out. Yeah, look, you can see they must have had sections tied, one like in front of the other, and then multiple ones of them. Yeah, look, it's even bent. You can tell it's done a day's work. You can imagine it getting dragged along and just tilling the land as it goes. Because I think it is designed to have these curves in it there, but as far as that is bent there, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's one of the little upstairs windows. It's had little upstairs bedrooms. Imagine looking at your bedroom window up to a hill scene like that. It's just wild and desolate. I can't even believe this rain now, folks. It's a crazy scene out here. Yeah, look, see this glass? There was more, the glass was at, I'm going to lay it in here so it's safer. If there's any sheep and stuff walking about here, folks. We didn't want them getting cut hoofs. But yeah, last time I went in and had a look, the glass was still in this window. But that's just like an area there with nothing in it. There's like a little, like what must have been a storage area. Must have been for storing game birds. They've just had like a little sink there, but I don't think they had running water at this point. There's the fire chimney from the middle bedroom. I can see raindrops landing on the lens here, folks, so we're just keeping this adventure rolling. That's all been added on as an extra, but I think maybe most recently gamekeepers have been using this, but now it's kind of even unsafe for them to use. There's just a layer of like dirt on the floor and the roof now, and everything's just starting to drop in, so it's like, but yeah, the roof and stuff's just starting to drop in, so it's like videos like this are genuinely like the last documentation of the history here in the Glen. And it is interesting to keep recording different things, and often going back different times a year, you get a different aspect of it, because obviously they would have been farming this land all year round, and when it was this time of year it must have been tough. They must have had to keep like a stock of grain and like tatties and whatever else they used to grow back in the day. They'd maybe be like killing a few chickens or sheep. They would probably have pigs and all sorts of stuff. When I see the square farm yard here, though, I imagine it more just like muddy. Maybe like some sheep or cows or something walking in and out the door, eating a bale. But then they wouldn't have had a bale, I suppose, back in those days. They'd be eating a pile of straw or hay. I'm thinking though, the cow shed must have been one of these ones. Some of these stones here at the edge of the farm track, they're absolutely massive. So I'm not sure if they were used for something at one time. Because it looks like they've definitely been like brought here. Maybe it was literally for a strong edge on the road. They were maybe sick of it washing away. Here, I've just noticed something down here, folks. We've just noticed a nugget of history that I never noticed the last time I was here. So I'm just heading down to see what it is. It's maybe an old, like, sheep dip or something like that. I can just hear constant gunshots up ahead. Yeah, check this out, folks. This is something we've never seen before at this location. And this is what I mean when I say you keep finding new history when you go places. Look, it's all been paved here. This is a proper area here that they've been sorting sheep and stuff out at. And just check out the view of the house from here. It looks so cool. Yeah, this is ace, folks. Check it out. I think this is for dipping sheep right here. The run down in through, get dipped, and then I'll let you look. We'll go down the other side. It looks easier to walk. I better watch there's no like a deep hole that I fall into here. But if it's sheep dip and stuff, that's a more recent thing. Look at that there, it just goes and stops. Normally with the ones I've seen, they run right through and then out the other side, so this is unusual. But I would say it's most likely just a sheep dip. Oh, again, what it could potentially be, folks. It looks like there's been a gate or something mounted here, so they probably had the sheep here. Literally, like, the boy would just like throw them into there and they would run back out. And that's most likely what it was. They would just be jumping in from this side off the hill and then in through and then off skis. So yeah, they might have been using this farm to the 60s, like I'm not sure, or maybe even a local farmer used this as a facility because all the sheep was maybe in this area. What a view though of that house right there. Special to see that. You can kind of see the layout of the whole main farm from here. And then obviously all those dikes and stuff that we saw on the way in. Again, that would have been their individual fields. Maybe with wheat and stuff growing. Maybe tatties. Look at this, see there's been gates and stuff all around here. It's just decaying history right now. But it's amazing because in the summer when I came round here we couldn't even see that for the long grass and the crazy overgrown conditions. Right folks, that rain's on heavy now, so I'm going to end this little adventure exploring a little bit of history, some of it that we've never seen before, but all of it interesting nonetheless, and just check the landscape we're in. But I'm going to end this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with the next adventure. I'm not sure where I'm going, but it'll be cool folks, so tune in soon.